Okay, welcome to another meeting for American Prisoners of War. This channel, we focus on the acronym A in American Prisoners of War, which is American history. We read proof of claim every week, and we openly are still waiting on anybody to debunk the documents that we read. We don't refer to any books outside of the founder of Black History Month, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. So tonight we have Chief Quietwater, Chief Waukegan, Chief Blackcoat, and myself, Chief Alligator. So we'll open up and go straight into the 12 steps with Chief Blackcoat. You gotta unmute yourself.
All right, guys. All right, 13-week practical program of action for each American prisoner of war. Step number 1, learn about the estate or estates your family originated from. Number 2, who established that estate. Number 3, what tribe or confederacy had jurisdiction over that area prior to the European. Number 4, ask all nonprofit organizations you attend what's your position on reparations. Number 5, they either support it or they don't. No support, no money. However, if they support it, then children and adults need weekly classes free of charge about steps 1, 2, and 3. In addition, field trips to American Prisoners of War landmarks in that city, county, and state are needed. Number 6, don't support European holidays for the remainder of the 13-week time frame. Number 7, avoid spending money with any small businesses that doesn't hire your people, gas station, nail salons, subways, corner stores, etc. Number 8, all businesses need operating cash. Spend money with American business. Number 9, all other groups rely on our energy and operating cash to survive. Set our trends of making other groups follow our lead and support our clubs, services, products, and entertainment. Step number 10, the U.S. government is bankrupt. The Federal Reserve prints money, i.e. quantitative easing. It also burns money, i.e. quantitative teething. If the U.S. dollar hasn't been backed by gold since Richard Nixon in 1971, the Gold Standard Act, the government operates on full faith of its citizens to pay debt and taxes. American prisoners of war no longer have faith in the U.S. government. This is why the support will be altered. Stop and be redirected. Step 11, teach your kids our hour a day about our history on this land. Have them learn about an American inventor. Have them know about our heroes. They should know the European that conquered that estate you live in. They should know the nation of people prior to the European invasion militarily and culturally. And last step, number 12, practicing these steps will educate us on the land claim in America and attaches us to the history and laws on this U.S. government. Each estate American prisoners of war live in should have steps 1, 2, and 3 advertised via social media, radio, newspaper. This 13-week time, one physical quarter will bring us together for one common cause.
Okay, what step jumps out to you tonight in the reading?
I'll go over them right now. The big thing right now is everybody trying to figure out who they are and where we come from. So we always want to look at step 2, who established that estate. That one kind of jumps out tonight if we're going to go into that. So yeah, number 2 will be sticking out today.
Okay, what about you, Chief Waukegan? Which one jumps out to you tonight?
I forgot what number, but the one about quantitative easing and tightening, because we're in debt. So how is the money real? How do we owe people money? How are we spending billions on other groups and billions on weapons and military if we're in debt? It still doesn't make sense to me. So that's gonna stick out to me for a while.
Okay, and Chief Quietwater, what step jumps out to you?
I would say number 8, all businesses need operating cash, spend money with American businesses. Just being conscious to make sure that we support our American businesses, you know, to continue to do that and stop spreading money outside of us so that we can continue to build stronger and stronger with the businesses that we have, being that we create so much. If we just kind of come together and spend money amongst ourselves, I think that we would progress much across the board.
Okay. Myself, I'm gonna go with step one tonight, learn about the estate or estates your family originated from, and just kind of debunk these scholars when you're in school or these religious leaders. Everybody's trying to impress on us who we are. I just think you just need to look at your great grandmama, your grandma, and just realize who you are. This whole slave narrative, the idea that everybody was on a military work camp. So step one sticks out to me. We'll jump into the Constitution. Typically what we do every week is we go to the document that this government supposedly is supposed to operate by. So if we can look at that document, we like to go over a couple of articles and sections before we get into the readings. So we'll start with section 1, article 10. Section 1, article 10 says, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. So we read this every week, and the key to learning is repetition. And the idea that we're supposed to be fourth, fifth class, for me, the idea that we're supposed to be fourth or fifth class citizens, with this narrative of always being up under the constant bombardment from the United States government, and there is no money, that always baffles me. What jumps out to y'all about Article 1, Section 10, with the reality that if there's no money, then why are we being oppressed? Chief Blackcoat, you want to start that off?
Yeah, it's just like you said, if there's no money, how are you oppressed? You really having to think about it, I guess. We're kind of playing a game on ourselves. Like, if we just, per their constitution and understanding what we read every week, there is no money per Richard Nixon, 1971, Gold Standard Act. Right now, it is a monopoly. So if we got that understood, if we understood that, then what oppression if the battlefield is level right now? But we have to understand that.
Chief Akivalan, you touched on that step jumped out to you, knowing that per their constitution, they're not even honoring what money is. Anything you want to share on that? Article 1, Section 10.
It just shows you that we're literally just giving trust, and that's the only thing that there is. There's no the backing of the people. If the people aren't messing with it, there could be a lot of change, but there's obviously no money, no real money, except for gold, silver, etc. But the paper that we use on a daily basis is just a fake currency. Excuse me.
Chief Quietwater, what's your thoughts on Article 1, Section 10?
I think what sticks out to me is the fact that most people don't know that that is the only constitutional money. The real money is gold and silver. So, without knowing that, people don't know the value in that. Growing up, you would think having gold and silver were just coins or whatever, but actually that is the real money. So that's what sticks out to me.
Okay, we'll go to our second section that we like to read out of their constitution, that they always like to honor and brag about their forefathers establishing for their government. We're going to do section 2 here, where it says the president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of several states when called into actual service of the United States. So 2020 made this real clear to me. When all the protesting was going on after George Floyd's murder, and you started seeing all these groups. I think they bombarded the Michigan Capitol, January 6, 2021, the attempted coup d'etat. So understanding who controls the militia, that's really imperative for us to understand that there's levels of armed resistance that's been financially supported against us as a group. Chief Blackcoat, what you got on that? You muted.
It's real. You know, again, reading their constitution, you know, per this government, the United States, you're seeing that there are militias. And then when you get deeper, you know, you start to find the maps of the militia districts. So understanding what's going on here is pretty important. You know, we always throw out the word or the term prisoner of war. So this is kind of where it sticks out most when you go past your military and talk about militias. What's the militia for? Or, you know, so what's the militia for? So that's my piece.
Okay, Chief Akibalon, what jumps out to you on this section 2 about the militia?
It just shows you like where they put their energy towards. That if they have a militia, they have some sort of idea of how they want to control things on a more specific level. Like if something happens, like January 6th happened, they have a specific set of or a specific group of people that are sent there to handle those situations, and it just shows what they care about. Just like the same way there's a new medicine every single day, you see that that's obviously where their money is going. So yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, Chief Blackcoat, Chief Quietwater.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with everyone else. I mean, just the fact that, you know, they can enforce the militia when they see fit. And the fact that most people don't even know anything about that. I know my first time learning about it is when we went over the militia districts and the whole map and everything like that. So that's what sticks out to me.
Another thing that sticks out to me is the fact that they don't want us to have our own militia. We don't have a Black Panther anymore. We don't have a Black Panther group. Anytime we have any type of militant protection or militant force, they do their best to take it down. So it's a reason that they do that. That's how I feel.
I wonder why I mean, maybe we have seen a militia disguised as police, but I wonder, like, what does it take for the militia to come out and actually for us to see that real picture of what we're talking about? Because we could talk about militia. A lot of people just gaze over it or what they mean, but I wonder what it takes to actually see the militia come outside or see them band together per their constitution and tear the veil apart. What does that take? Because we know it's there.
Good point. We'll go to the last section that we read before, where are we at? Gotcha.
6.
Okay. So it says here, this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made. Hold on, I'm getting back feed. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, and anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. This is powerful for me, especially with all the talk about reparations and trying to figure out who we are. Are we Black? Are we B1? Are we just American? Which is what this channel pretty much proves every week. It's just interesting to me that you can go to a history class in any college or any high school and none of your scholar professors ever read treaties. So how can you be talking about what happened on the land called America and you're not reading treaties? It's just very interesting to me how they point you to a book, but they won't point you to the supreme law of the land. Chief Blackcoat, what's your thought on the treaties being the supreme law of the land and why none of our people, quote unquote, highly schooled ever talk about them?
Well, the treaties tell the story. So, you know, having a little bit of school, we understand that the main idea is slavery. But the treaties tell the story. So that's kind of the honest, probably the truth of why we don't talk about those things. Because now you kind of see how America was formed in a way. Well, not America, but this government on the land. So it's kind of like the hidden secret, you know. Everybody knows about treaties, but nobody kind of reads them. So it's like you don't want to go that way, or you don't want to touch it because it unveils what's really going on.
Okay. If I could ask you to just go a little deeper, because what we know by reading treaties is these are military records.
Right.
So this debunks slavery because it shows that the people of the land were fighting the European.
Right.
But then this is the real story, but the media school is going to tell you we were slaves and
Right.
we had nothing going on. You want to dig a little bit deeper how if our scholars made us read treaties, we would see that we are fighting.
Because it's our government. I mean, hopefully I'm staying in alignment, but because it's the government, so people think government is kind of like Big Brother or something that helps me, you know, putting it in simple terms. But you know, once you understand, okay, that's my government, it's a different, it starts to be a different story now, because you got to look at it for what it is. So yeah, understanding that these are the highest law in the land, it's kind of weird why you don't read it in school.
Chief Waukegan, what's your thought on it, being that treaties are supreme law of the land, but nobody ever talks about them when you're in school in history class?
I feel like it's the same reason we don't know what like Masons talk about. It's because I feel like it's not a certain level of you have to have a certain level of knowledge, I feel like, to get what these mean, especially if you've been in school for so long. You can't really see anything outside of what you already have been programmed to know with slavery and the 16th Amendment, 13th Amendment, and stuff like that. So I feel like it's kind of a hidden type of knowledge because it's there, but them teaching that will have to be them teaching us why these treaties are important in the first place, or where they came from, where the first treaties came from, where the United States government got the idea to use treaties from. And it just opens this thing that I feel like they probably don't want to do. Well, they obviously don't want to do.
Chief Quietwater, what's your thought on the never learning about supreme law of the land in any kind of school institution?
I agree with everyone. I also think that, like like Chief Blackcoat touched on, because they created a narrative, they created a story. So, and the scholars, most of them, I would assume, know this information, but for whatever reason, whether it's financial gain or whatever, they don't expose everything. They give you bits and pieces of information, but if you just go back to these treaties, it's there. It's what it is. It can't be scripted because it's already written. So I just think it's just a bigger issue of them just keeping it from us, because if we knew how things happen and how things turn, it would give us a little bit more power, and we would recognize the power that we actually have as well.
Okay. We'll jump into the Dr. Carter G. Woodson quote for this week. We do a weekly quote of him, honoring him, the founder of Black History Month, what we know as Black History Month. This week, I'm going to do the number 3. It was well understood that if by teaching the history of the European man, it was well understood that if by the teaching of history, the European man could be further assured of his superiority, and the Negro could be made to feel that he had always been a failure, and that the subjection of his will to some other race is necessary, the freedman then would still be a slave. If you control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about his actions. When you determine what a man shall think, you don't have to concern yourself about what he will do. And I think that just ties into what we just talked about, the treaties being the supreme law of the land. Chief Waukegan touched on it when he talked about Masonry, which is a higher learning organization. You do have to be a free thinker and kind of outside the box to even want to go down that rabbit hole, if you will. And more importantly, on a human level, never closing your mind to any kind of knowledge, because like it says in that quote, You'll always be a follower of this European and always make him to be quote unquote supreme over you if you let him tell you who you are. So I think we all kind of touched on that. But Chief Blackcoat, what did you get from that?
Same thing, allowing somebody else to tell you who you are, not doing your own, due diligence and figuring out the root of everything pretty much. Everything comes with a deeper story. So, doing your own part, contributing, doing your part.
Chief Akibaline. Okay. Chief Quietwater, what's your thought on that Dr. Carter G. Woodson quote? And then we'll come back to Chief.
I think it goes right into what we literally just spoke about in regards to information. We have been indoctrinated with everything that has been told to us in the school system and by even new age scholars that we sometimes get information from, but which it has controlled our thoughts. And I think that it just ties into everything that we just spoke about in regards to it.
Chief Akibaline, what's your thought on that quote from Dr. Carter G. Woodson?
I think everybody pretty much said the same thing, and I think the quote is pretty straightforward. Like, if you can control how somebody thinks, you don't really need to care if they're gonna make a brash decision or go against you. If you know how if they're not thinking against you, why would you have to do anything extra if they're not gonna make a move?
All right, I'll do the legal definitions. Let me pull this up real quick. Oh, 1 second. Can you pull up the legal definitions?
I can do them.
Okay.
I have them right here.
Okay.
So the legal definitions: number 1, American and a native of America. Number 2, descendant, one who follows in the bloodline of an ancestor, either lineally or collaterally. Number 3, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. Number 4, prisoner of war, a person, usually a soldier, who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Number 5, school, an institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. Number 6, education, an enlightening experience. And then for the maroon historical points, number 1 was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law. Number 2, providing unity and a strong defense came first. Number 3, maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Number 4, maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks in thick grass. Number 5, maroons knew their European enemy, language, defenses, and plans.
Okay. That. So we've got the readings out. So now we're going to go back to the 1866 Indian Treaty.
I'm going to do the inventor.
Correct.
Okay. So the inventor that I have this week is Percy, Lavon, Julian. And this American was a chemist, one of several chemists, American chemists from his days. And basically what he did was synthesize chemicals from the Mexican yam to make basically cortisone, which is a steroid, which further developed into other medicines and things of that nature. So he has over 130 patents where this particular way that he synthesized these medicines developed into the progression of different steroids that branched off into other different kind of drugs. So the patent number is 218971. And let me see, the patent date was October 1940. And the other thing is he was born actually in Montgomery, Alabama, April 11th, 1899, and he died April 19th, 1975 in Illinois. And that's about it.
And do we own and control any percentage of that industry that that engineer or scientist created?
No, we do not.
Okay. All right, so we're going to get right into this 1866 Indian Treaty. We're going to pick up where we left off last week. Just to kind of give a brief overview, we were talking about the structure, how the United States government imposed secretaries and their own treasurer within these American nations. And so basically, they were spies. And so what we're going to do is continue to read now about how the United States government is dictating to the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations how they can operate. And it just shows that they're not self-sufficient as nations at this point. And I made a statement last week that this Mongoloid type person that we are shown on TV to be American, we've never seen any of them invent anything. And we've been doing this almost a year online. And so one of the things I mentioned last week is that it's safe to say that they're not American, that those Asian looking people are from Asia and they came on boats just like the Europeans, and they were placed in Indian territory west of the Mississippi River. Because if you are a real owner of something, you're not going to have another group of people dictating to you where you can go, who's going to be your secretary, who's going to be your treasurer. So the more we get into this treaty, you can see the way I'm interpreted is these people couldn't have been in control of anything because they're letting outside force dictate too many terms and conditions to them. So where we left off last week was right where the marshals were concerned. We'll probably scroll up some. Let's see, scroll up some more. Let's further agree that superintendent. Okay, number 11.
Yeah.
So somebody want to start on section.
Oh, okay, I got you. Okay, right here.
All right.
Okay.
We'll start right here where it talks about
I'll start.
It's kind of lagging a little bit, Chief of Keep It Line.
Okay, Quiet Water. And actually, I'm gonna have to pass on the reading. Somebody just turned on a saw, so I don't know if y'all can hear that or not.
No, we can't.
Oh, okay, cool. That's perfect then. And the said marshal and the said secretary shall each be entitled to a salary of $500 per annum to be paid by the United States, and such fees in addition thereto as shall be established by said government, with the approbation of the Secretary of the Interior, it being understood that the said fee list may at any time be corrected and altered by the Secretary of the Interior as the experience of the system proposed herein to be established shall show to be necessary, and shall in no case exceed the fees paid to marshals of the United States for similar services. The salary of the interpreter shall be $500 to be paid in like manner by the United States. I'm gonna need help breaking that one down.
Okay, does anybody want to, what sticks out based on the section 11 that he read to anybody?
Well, said
I'll
marshal.
say what sticks out to me. Oh, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say marshal, the secretary, entitled the $500 per annum. So to be paid by the United States and such fees addition thereto shall be established by state government. So they're saying you're getting $500 for slavery to enslave, or what are we talking about right here?
Okay.
I think it goes into what we were talking about last week too, how they're, because it says something about a fee list, basically, they're entitled to the $500. I guess, is that per year? Is that what annum means? We'll have to look that up. Per year. And again, it's established by the governor. So it's something, an entity totally separate from the actual group. I'm thinking. Need some help.
All right, so this is the Choctaw and the Chickasaw Nation. And what the United States government is saying is that you can have a marshal, right? So that's going to be like their officer of the court and also the person that'll go and serve warrants or whatever have you. But who's paying that marshal from the Choctaw and Chickasaw Nation? To be paid by the United States. So again, if you're a sovereign nation, if you're an independent group of people, you can't be independent if another nation is paying you. So what the United States government is saying is they're going to pay the Choctaw and Chickasaw Nations marshal yearly $500. So that shows that those nations have no control, because that marshal is completely dependent upon the United States government for his yearly salary. And that's kind of what I was bringing up before we got into the reading, how reading it, where we are in this treaty now is the United States government is putting secretaries, treasurer, and marshals within their nations. So they're not really working for the Choctaw Chickasaw people, they're really working for the United States government.
Is that like how the interpreter people were too?
Yeah, it's like they're infiltrating, and what we're reading here is how they're setting up to basically infiltrate these two nations from within. That's why I feel like these aren't real Americans, because we're still in the Seminole War east of the Mississippi. That's why I feel like these people were refugees from another land, because who allows that to happen, right? What group of people? That's like China today. That's like the United States government saying, well, we're going to give you a secretary and a treasurer, so we'll know everything that happens in your business meetings under your nation. Nobody does that. Anybody else want to build on that?
I think that was a good way to sum it up. I don't have nothing extra to say.
Oh yeah. You can see the infiltration. That's the only thing that was standing out mostly. Again, they have no control. So you have these people playing secretary marshal, but still answering to the United States government. So there was no real community building here happening, or nation building. It was just, again, the infiltration from within and then branch it out.
Someone wants to do section 12?
I can do it. And the United States agreed that in the appointment of marshals and deputies, preference, qualifications being equal, shall be given to competent members of the said nations. So they're appointing marshals and deputies to the nations. And like you said, basically that's kind of backwards. If it's their stuff, how are they allowing another entity to come in to appoint any kind of positions or authority? The object being to create a laudable ambition to acquire the experience necessary for political offices of importance in the respective nations. So basically, maybe they're thinking that they don't have the experience, and they're putting what they would consider, I guess, qualified people in place so that they know that things are ran the way that they want them to be ran on behalf of the United States.
Which further shows proof that these people never had experience in running anything. Because if somebody has experience in running something, you ain't got to show them.
Sure, right. Okay. Number 13, and whereas it is desired by the said Choctaw and Chickasaw nations that the said council should consist of an upper and lower house, it is hereby agreed that whenever a majority of the tribes or nations represented in said council shall desire the same. So they're basically setting up a voting process, I guess, when it comes to making decision. I guess if the majority decides to go in a direction, that's the way that it goes. Is that right?
Yeah, the peasants have now got some experience of running their own government, meaning the United States government. So they're setting up Choctaw and Chickasaw Nation just like the House of Representatives under their government. You're gonna have an upper and a lower house.
Right. Wow, okay. Or the Congress of the United States shall be so prescribed, there shall be, in addition to council now provided for, and which shall then constitute the lower house and upper house, consisting of one member from each tribe entitled to representation in the council now provided for the relations of the two houses to each other, being such as prevail in the United States, in the states of the United States. Okay. Each house being authorized to choose its presiding officer. So again, they're allowing them to vote in their officers and things of that nature. And clerk to perform the duties appropriate to such offices. And it being the duty, in addition, of the clerks of each house to make out and transmit to the territorial secretary fair copies of the proceedings of the respective houses immediately after their respective sessions. So again, setting up different positions like the secretary positions and things like that within the two different houses. And like you said, Chief Alligator, they're setting it up just like they have already, got theirs set up. Let's see, after their respective sessions, which copy shall be dealt with by said secretary as in now provided in the case of copies of the proceedings of the council mentioned in this act. And the said clerk shall each be entitled to the same per diem as members of the respective houses and the presiding officers to double that sum. And so basically the clerks will be paid a per diem, and the officers will be paid double that.
Who's the most powerful people under the European government? Based on what Chief Quietwater just read, what two positions have the most power?
The secretary.
Yeah, the secretaries and clerks.
Secretary.
So that rhymes to the day. When you go down to a courthouse, what's
got all your stuff?
Huh?
Oh, the secretaries and the clerks. You gotta go through them.
You want to go straight to the clerk, right? She has the power. She sets the judge's calendar. She does everything.
All right.
So put a pin in that and remember that for the rest of your life. Understanding the supreme law of the land helps you navigate in society. Yeah, the clerk runs the courthouse. The clerk runs the courthouse. Anybody else want to start with Article 9?
I got you.
Okay.
Such sums of money as have, by virtue of treaties existing in the year 1861, been invested for the purposes of education, shall remain so invested, and the interest thereof shall be applied for the same purposes, in such manner as shall be designated by the legislative authorities of the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations, respectively. It seems like they're setting up the education system now. It seems like that's just how they see is what's going to work by controlling the minds, like we just said with the quote. I think it's their initial way to say that this is where our money is going to be going to. We're going to use the land. We're going to have the people control the money, and now we need to control what they learn and how they probably learn about the money, or how they probably learn about the things that we do and why we do. Well, not us, but them. The things that they do and why they do the things that they do and why they're messing them over and why it's okay because they're helping them at the end of the day.
Yep. Anybody else want to say anything on that, what he just read? Because
I don't know why, but I can't hear y'all sometimes. So if I don't say nothing, I'm not like ignoring, I'm not participating, but the phone keeps cutting out and keeps kicking me. So sometimes I won't say nothing.
No, we're seeing the layout plan. We're seeing it all come together. Article 9, we're talking about investing money into education now. So we're seeing the blueprint being laid out for sure.
And it makes sense from their standpoint, because if they don't want to continue to fight a group of people, then you have to miseducate them and make them think something else. So I mean, it's kind of brilliant on their end, right? If they don't want their kids to have to fight that same fight that they fought, how do you prevent that? Miseducate the youth, make the youth think they come from another landmass and that they weren't anything. You never have to worry about your kids having to deal with the battle that you're fighting. Anybody want to do Article 10?
Yeah, I got you. The United States reaffirms all obligations arising out of treaty stipulations or acts of legislation with regard to the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations entered into prior to the late rebellion and enforced at that time, not inconsistent herewith. All right, I'm gonna stop there. It seems like they're saying that even though they rebel, they still need to abide by the obligations that's in the treaty. Even though the United States aren't doing the same, which is weird, but going on, entered into prior to, oh my bad.
Hold on 1 second. Can you highlight that, Chief Quietwater, where it says entered into prior to the late rebellion? Chief Akibalan and everybody, I want y'all to share on this, because every time you hear somebody talk about a civil war, when you read the supreme law of the land, they keep telling you there was no war, but yet you have scholars telling you there was a civil war. This is like the fourth time we've seen where it keeps referring to it as a rebellion, but
Right, yeah, that
on
jumped out
TV they tell
immediately.
you it's a war. Y'all want to build on that? How you can see the propaganda that they're lying.
No, they're not lying. They're telling the truth. The school systems is lying, but
Right.
they have the truth right here. They know the truth. The truth isn't even hidden. It's just we don't read this stuff. We don't learn this stuff, and it's strategically done that way. But they tell it the truth. We just don't know it.
They play word games, but yeah, that late rebellion jumped out immediately. Wanted to touch on like, oh, rebellion again, not a civil war, huh? Again, the story is just, it's made to seem more so happy days in the end. War. So in order for a war to end, there had to be a compromise. And we must have
And then
compromised.
with the word civil war, just how they use wordplay. Civil is when
Right.
there's people that are on the land, and it's a fight with the people that are from the place that they're fighting in. But in reality, the Europeans aren't from America, so how is it a civil war if you're not a civilian of where you're fighting at?
Correct.
Facts.
Yeah, and I'm glad that y'all see that, because that's how we break this government or break this false narrative that there even was a civil war, when again, the only thing people can do that watch this channel is debate us based on proof of claim. As scholars continue to say that there was a civil war, we know they're lying, because you can't refute supreme law of the land. We're reading government documents. They're not referring to that as a civil war, but most people will look at us like we're crazy when we say there was no civil war. Chief Quietwater, you want to say anything about that? How we keep seeing rebellion.
Can't look at us like we're crazy if we take this to the highest, Supreme Court and read it back. Then there will be no questions. Everybody else will just have to be in a learning moment. But go ahead, Chief Whitewater.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what everyone said. Right. It keeps throwing that out there. And like Chief Akibalan said, these are the facts. The school system and the indoctrination is what has gotten things twisted. And it just literally comes down to what I always go back to, is just the lack of knowledge and the ignorance of us not knowing this information even exists. So
back to not doing our part, and trusting everything into a government.
right.
I got you on the books. Read this. You'll be a millionaire if you work hard at it.
If you can control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about him. You want to continue, Chief Akibalan, with your section?
Yeah. All right. So, and wait, hold on. And further agrees to renew the payment of all annuities and all other monies accruing under such treaty stipulations and acts of legislation from and after the close of the fiscal year ending on the 13th of June in the year 1866. basically they're saying y'all have to, I feel like they're saying you have to continue with your obligations that we set in this treaty before the rebellion. And you doing that is going to give, you're going to be paid for doing that, basically. So as long as you abide by these rules, that's crazy though, because they said that they didn't have to if it went against what they said. But as long as they abide by these rules, you're going to get the money that we promised you. That's what it seems like it said, like, to me.
Yep. And who's in control? If the United States government, if the Chickasaw and Choctaw Nation are completely dependent upon the United States government to give them their per diem salaries, who's really in control of those nations?
The United States.
Yeah. I mean, they're playing government right now. And they probably don't notice on this level. This is on big boy level. So at the bottom, you're just seeing pieces moving. And you're thinking, oh, happy days is coming soon. But really, Puppet Master back here, down here, Article 10.
So
You know what it is.
Let me play devil's advocate. Let me spin the chessboard all the way around 180 degrees. If we were to ever stand up on this land against this government, is it safe to say that these nations would also fight against us because the United States government is funding their lifestyle? Would it be irrational of you to think that these nations would not fight against us if we stood up?
I don't think that's far-fetched. I think they definitely would have some type of resistance because they are still dependent on the government.
Chief Blackcoat, Chief Akibaline.
Can you repeat the question?
If we, now that we know that the United States government is financing the Choctaw and Chickasaw Nation, would it surprise us that if we stood up as a group of people, that these two nations will fight against us because they're being financed by the United States government?
Oh, yeah.
Let me add in one more. Would we be surprised if the nonprofit organizations fight against us or your Black Congressional Caucus fight against us? Because the United States government is funding all of these things. So it shouldn't surprise us that nobody works for us because look who's paying them.
I think it's 50-50.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me, but it's kind of like, so you want to be controlled and you don't want the chains off at all. Like, this is bigger than just them. Nah, I think it's 50-50 for sure though.
Why 50-50?
Because it's still just, there is no freedom in that. You're on paper documented where you're not free. You're being accounted by somebody, and now you can't buy this because your credit score too. It's a lot of little things to it. But
that's a spiritual thing. I see where you're going, but that's a spiritual thing because one being could see this and say, oh, that's a good deal. But another being could see that and see what you're saying.
Right.
You follow me?
Facts.
That's why you're saying it's 50-50?
Yeah. Now I can see the money coming to play, and that's just what it is. You know, we living good over here, but 50-50, we should see. If that day ever comes, we shall see. But if you know the Constitution, you know it's just kind of like, that day won't come until we understand things like this of that nature and the true history of every estate. So once that time comes, people are like, yeah, you know, we like it like that. That's gonna be kind of tough.
I'll do Article 11. Whereas the land occupied by the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations and described in the treaty between the United States and said nations of June 22nd, 1865, is now held by the members of said nations in common. Under the provisions of the said treaty, and whereas it is believed that the holding of said land in severalty will promote the general civilization of said nations and tend to advance their permanent welfare in the best interest of their individual members, it is hereby agreed that should the Choctaw and Chickasaw people, through their respective legislative councils, agree to the survey and dividing their land on the system of the United States. I'll stop right there. So basically they're just saying, again, United States government's playing big brother to the Choctaw and Chickasaw. We're going to put you here, supposedly on your own land, Native American. That doesn't make sense to me if you're the American, how you're letting them put you where they want you to be.
Right. Right. Yep.
Anybody else want to say anything on that?
At this point, you could just tell, I mean, not trying to speak for the Choctaw and Chickasaw, but it just sounds like they understand we're in this constant migration moment of life now. So right now it's kind of just go with the flow. I've already came over whoever, and then we know all these other people are here now. So now it's just a bunch of, ain't nobody talking the same language. It's people with guns pointing wherever, you know, late at night, whenever.
Yeah,
it's just moving pieces right now. That all they know is what pieces are being moved.
Yeah, it sounds like a minority to me. It just sounds like you're being, if I'm gonna use the word minority or minority child, like the parent tells the child what to do. The United States government is telling the Choctaw and Chickasaw, hey, you're going to be on this divided land based on the system of the United States. Like,
and this is going to be yours.
Yeah, like what the fuck? Like how
but you can't do that because you telling me that's mine.
Right. Like how you, yeah. Then it says, the land aforesaid east of the 98th degree of west longitude shall be, in the view of the arrangements herein after mentioned, surveyed and laid off in ranges, townships, sections, and parts of sections, and that for the purpose of facilitating such surveys and for the settlement and distribution of said land as herein after provided. Again, you got this United States government putting you in townships, sections, and parts of sections. It just doesn't sound like you're independent when you got, it just sounds like they're treating you like you're their kid.
And in real estate, Florida is still a township state.
Kind of choppy.
I said, and in real estate, Florida is still a township state. Like they operate off townships instead of normal real estate laws. I can't hear anything, bro.
Anybody else want to build on that little section that was just read?
I agree with what everyone else said.
Chief Blackcoat, you good? Okay, if you could scroll down a little bit or scroll up, I'll keep reading. Okay. There shall be established at Bogey Depot in the Choctaw Territory a land office, and that in making the said surveys and conducting the business of the said office, including the appointment of all necessary agents and surveyors. So now they're gonna have a Bogey Depot, and that's where these two nations are gonna put all their documents where they're told to go by the United States government. That way they can have a record of it. Where we at? Okay, the same system shall be pursued, which has hereto governed in respect to the public lands of the United States. It being understood that the said survey shall be made at the cost of the United States and by their agents and surveyors. Once again, the United States is calling all the shots. They're the ones making the investment. They're spending the money. So again, these two nations are completely dependent on everything the United States government does because they're the ones spending all the financial resources. Anybody want to build on that, or y'all good?
Surveys or surveyors sounds like what, like census. You know, we got the surveys and then our surveyors. What are we talking there?
Land surveyors.
So overseers.
Yeah, like the people who go out and look at the land and mark it.
Oh, surveyors. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're just totally dependent right now. I mean, they already have their infrastructure of how this thing's gonna move. Again, I like that the words keep coming out: surveyors, agents, marshals, secretary, clerks. We're seeing the establishment being built. And again, how can this be my land if you're giving it to me? You're telling me this is my piece. I want that piece. No, this is your piece.
And there was no
difficult times
either. No resistance from them. They just literally allowed them to do this, basically.
right? I'm just seeing waves of Europeans right now. I'm seeing marshals, I'm seeing clerks, I'm seeing secretaries, I'm seeing agents, I'm seeing land surveyors. They're just infiltrating, just bombarding these people with all these different employees of the United States government. And that the officers and employees in the land offices of the United States in Kansas. So we'll go down to 12. Oh, well, we'll stop at 12. We'll stop there. So we'll start at 12 next week. Yeah, so we can just clearly see right here that these two nations don't have any say-so in this treaty, which I'm just throwing this idea at the wall. The people who they're saying are Choctaw and Chickasaw, I don't believe that these people are really Choctaw and Chickasaw because there's still a Seminole war going on the other side of the Mississippi. We know our ancestors never went into treaty with the European. We're still under that war to this day because that third Seminole war never ended, which is why we say we're prisoners of war. It wasn't until Dr. Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Act that they did try to include us as citizens, but we're dishonoring our great grandparents because they brought us under the government as citizens under the word minority. So we're dishonoring our ancestors that was Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Creek. And so until we get right with our family bloodline, it's kind of like we're putting a curse on ourselves because we cannot be a minority or a person of color or any adjective that they've placed us under since we've been citizens since the 1960s. And we just haven't figured that out yet. And it's only getting worse because now they're bringing in other fabricated groups of people like the gay community. They've taken your history out and now they're telling you your kids need to learn about homosexuality. They're telling you that human beings can feel. They're telling you that you can go off feelings now based on what your gender is, based off the reality of what you came out of your mom as. You know, it's Ripley's Believe It or Not at this point, if you go down this rabbit hole with these people. Anybody want to share what they got from this in summary based on what we did today?
Another good breakdown, always a good breakdown. Again, just watching this blueprint, watching this United States government, you know, build it brick by brick, how they were able to infiltrate and how they were able to grow, taking a group of people, having a number to actually get the ball rolling, to actually get the wheel spinning. So we're seeing they definitely came to play for keeps. They definitely came to actually establish something and have something. And you can see they use bodies to do it for them before they could actually flood the gates, or the gates were already flooded. We don't know how many people we're talking about right now, but it sounds like a lot, having all these different positions to, you know, make sure things run how they needed to run. But that's my piece from tonight, class.
I agree. I think that they just strategically set things up and they had their plan and they put it in place, and it just continued to move forward to current day. I mean, it's still the same situation today. So I agree.
I feel the same way that I've always felt, that these people have no solid foundation. They built their whole life on lies, and as the truth comes out more and more, it's obvious that they knew that this would happen. Yeah, I just feel like this is all based on lies. No, I don't feel like that it's factually based on lies. And yeah, it's obvious that they don't have no real foundation, or like they don't have no real power besides what you think in your perception. But yeah, that's why I'm happy that we're learning this stuff.
Great point. They don't have a foundation. So if they ever was posed to answer the question who their great grandparents were, they probably couldn't answer it because they came over as peasants. They probably really don't know who their family is coming from Europe. Great point. Great point. And they're never asked that because they run with the slavery narrative that we are the group of people that don't know who our great grandparents are. But nobody ever asked them, who's yours?
It's projection.
Another great week. We'll pick up next week and continue on 1866 Indian Treaty. We're almost at the halfway point of it, so definitely got to be persistent and consistent with it. But if anybody believes otherwise, based on what we're doing, feel free to drop comments, providing your proof of claim to the contrary. But we're showing you guys proof of claim. We're showing the world proof of claim that this whole shit is a lie.